This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to speak with Christian Swegal about Sovereign. How are you, Christian?
I'm doing well, thanks. Nice to meet you.
You too. This film is undeniably interesting. Can you tell me about the real life story and your knowledge of it?
Yeah, the real life story. So the film is inspired by the 2010 West Memphis police shooting, where Jerry Kane uh, and his son Joe Kane were traveling the country doing these debt reduction seminars, and they were stopped by police, and and it led to a shootout at a Walmart. So that the crime was a basis for the film, but the film itself is a bit more kind of memoir than a true to life retelling beat by beat of the events.
Given, the unfortunate direction of this film and how things go, did you have any sort of qualms about trying to humanize these people and sort of want a sort of limit for what you wanted to do to make sure that you weren't, accidentally endorsing their actions or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dealing with something like this, especially a true story, and it's an American tragedy. It was tragic for all the families. Um, we tried to be as sensitive as possible, obviously, to that, speaking to police officers that were involved beforehand. But I think whether we like it or not, this is a movement that exists in our country. It's an event that happened. It's we're, without getting too sort of philosophical about it, we're living in a very fractured time in the country. There's a lot of these fringe ideological movements that are all over, popping up all over the place. I think at one point, there was an estimate that there were 300,000 sovereign citizens in the United States. Uh, we've seen QAnon, we've seen, there. It's a very real phenomenon in the country, and I think it was interesting to me, not to place a judgment, but to try to understand, how does this happen? How does a crime like this happen? What were the systemic failures? What are the things that we need to be collectively discussing to make sure that something like this never happens again?
Yeah, I think there are also moments that, if played a different way, could almost be funny. Like, I'm not driving a car. What are you talking about? And it's like, no, of course you're driving a car. But it's just the way that it's played and the way that it comes across is these people absolutely believe what they're saying and absolutely believe that if they think the way other people are looking at it is wrong, that means that they're right. And anything you say, it's not gonna convince them. Like,
Yeah,
don't break down my door, I'm not gonna let you in. Doesn't
yeah.
go like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the funniest things, and this is something that I have a bit of a you know personal experience with, just through family members and things, is a lot of the comedy in this is really mental illness masking as ideology. Speaking to a lot of the police officers in Arkansas who were really behind us telling this story. A huge portion of their prison population and their encounters as police officers are with people who are dealing with mental illness. They're not trained for those kind of encounters. It's not the job they're even wanting to do. And I think this is kind of a bad example, but well, there's a lot of circumstances and there's a lot of things I think we've seen in the news, where something that seems funny, like somebody saying, "Well, I'm traveling," and they wholeheartedly believe this. That person, we don't know what the circumstances are. They may have delusional disorder. They may have any kind of thing on the spectrum, and I think rather than kind of othering those people and condemning them right off the bat, I don't think that helps us to solve the problem. I think we need to really look at these cases and see what happened and what went wrong.
I think it's also only gotten worse in a lot of ways. And since 2010, right, that,
Yeah,
now there are more people, many more people with a distrust of the government that is less than healthy and who, are willing to believe anything except what seems to be the most obvious.
Yeah, because I think you can't invalidate someone's personal experience. I think that there were in my research of the sovereign movement, there were people from all over the political spectrum that came to that movement, but they all shared a deep distrust of the government. And in a lot of cases it was valid. A lot of people lost their homes in 2008, and a lot of people, bankers and other people got rich after that. So despite being told they were wrong or whatever, the outcome, they felt the outcome. And so i think I think these movements, and people like Jerry Kane kind of spring up when there's pressure, and there's suffering basically on some level, and then someone steps forward and says, well, here, let me paint a target on who you should be angry at. And that answer is rarely the correct answer. It's usually dangerous and misguided, but it's coming from a valid place, I feel like.
I think it's interesting what you say about the political spectrum too, because I feel like very often, people who, militias and other things you associate with, right wing
Mm-mm.
ideologies. And here, this isn't a white supremacist thing. It could be certainly, but it's that this is just I am my own person and no one can tell me what to do, even though I live in a place that has laws that do tell me what to do.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of, even I interviewed some, that came to the movement from like this one lady was like an earth mother almost, like an environmentalist, new age kind of, so people have come to it from a lot of different places, but usually the common thread that I saw was they had suffered some sort of loss, financial, personal, and and the system had kind of failed them in a way. And also, there's just a lack of community. I think these movements like QAnon, and it's a replacement for a lot of other communities maybe in the past that have gone away now. So it's a way of kind of people coming together in their shared experience, and it doesn't by any means excuse or mitigate, in some way the outcome of like certainly this tragedy. But I think to move on from something like this and try to have a discussion about it, it feels ripe for an American filmmaker trying to make American cinema to have a discussion about something like this. It seems like something unique.
And we were talking before about how these things aren't meant to be funny, but that makes it even bolder to cast someone like Nick Offerman, who famously played an anti-government person on Parks
Yeah.
and Rec. But I mean, following the course of his career, seeing The Last of Us and Civil War, it seems like he's really headed in this direction. This is almost, I don't know that I ever would have thought of him for this role, but he feels like the perfect fit somehow.
Yeah, I mean, certainly his body of work, you know, led to, oh, I'm sorry, I might have frozen there for a second. Uh, the roles he's done in the past definitely teed him up for this, I think, in a really unique way. He has a personal fascination with a lot of this stuff. But I think, you know, Nick has an incredible ability to play warmth. We've seen him in roles before playing a father. He had that warm side, but he also has this physical menace and danger in this that I think is really unique, and I haven't seen from him too many times. And he really gets to play a wide range of emotions in this movie, which is really great.
And I'll be honest, I saw his name in the credits, but I didn't recognize Jacob Tremblay. Like he just,
Yeah.
he's like shut up, he just having seen him obviously in Room and in so much time. I think he's made a lot of really smart career choices for somebody who easily could have just been a child star that, didn't go in good places. And now, this feels like a very grown up role for him, for somebody who's still been doing pretty mature stuff even since a young age.
Yeah, I mean, Jake is a brilliant actor. He's so talented and wonderful to work with. And it's tough because he just did a lot with very little in terms of dialogue in this movie. So much of his performance is internal, and yet I just felt like anytime the camera was on him, you almost felt knew what he was thinking. He just internalized the character to such a degree. He's a brilliant young actor, and I'm really excited for people to see him in this role really as an adult, and for the first time.
It's exciting that the film is premiering at Tribeca, but it feels like culturally probably the furthest you could get away from the film's geographical setting. How does that feel to be premiering it there?
I mean, it feels wonderful to be at Tribeca. It's a great launching pad for us, and I don't know. New York is has everybody comes to New York City, and it's a great melting pot. And I think it was important for us to make a movie that was apolitical. This isn't making a judgment on anything. It's not making a statement. It's really asking a question. My favorite films are films that really ask questions rather than give answers. And so I hope people walk away from this thinking about it, and that it sparks discussion. And I think being in New York for that is actually great.
I don't know the general opinion. I'm sure there are many of sovereign citizens and going to the movies, but what would you hope somebody who might identify perhaps too much with the lead characters would get out of this film?
Um, I hope that everybody would watching it, no matter what spectrum of politics or ideology you're on, would feel that it was honest and human. Um, I hope that there's not an overt agenda there. I think I really wanted to. There's like I said, there's so much going on in this country right now. I just really wanted to make a film that talked about that. There's that movies are escapism, movies are a lot of things, but movies are also a way to reflect life back. And I hope that this feels like an honest reflection of something real that's happening in the country.
I know this is the first feature you directed. Do you have plans to make another? Did you enjoy the experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was a dream come true for me. It's a group effort. It's a collaborative medium. I had beautiful, wonderful collaborators. It's a career highlight for me for sure. I hope I get to do it again. I have plans to do it again. Have some things in the works, but it's always kind of a small miracle when you get a movie made, and that's not lost on me. And I'm just really grateful to be here.
Well, I appreciate your insight into this, and I'm glad people are going to get to see this film. Wish you plenty of luck at Tribeca and beyond.
Thanks, Abe.